So Chad, let's start with you. We were just talking about SpaceX, hugely valued company, but we have this news that Lindsay Yaccarino is stepping down. There's been this thinking among investors in Tesla, for example, that Elon Musk is constantly distracted by different things. For SpaceX, is that a concern for you?
So we're going to talk about SpaceX for sure, but the space economy is much broader than just SpaceX and Elon Musk. It has gone, it is no longer a venture-only curiosity, it is now a macro relevant asset class that is reshaping defense, connectivity, and global intelligence. Just this quarter, there was $7.8 billion invested into 113 companies across the space economy. So there's a lot more going on here than just SpaceX, although SpaceX is certainly the apex player. They have held the dominant position over the last decade or so. The only reason that we even talk about space as an investable category is because of what SpaceX has done. So yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of noise going on, but there usually is when you're talking about Elon Musk. I don't think that this is really new, it's just different.
What about the president threatening to pull those government contracts? Because that is very important for SpaceX.
Certainly, I mean, this is something that we're keeping an eye on, right? I mean, anytime that you get involved in politics, you're going to ruffle some feathers and you're going to make a certain group of people upset. You know, there's also benefits. So there's benefits and costs to getting involved in politics, and he got involved in a very major way, right? SpaceX is very heavily dependent on the government for revenue and contracts, but the US government is also very heavily dependent on SpaceX. This is the most important company in the world in terms of economic growth and national security. So the US government needs them as well. So there's also this really interesting tension on both sides.
And you brought up national security, and that seems to be a huge priority for this administration in particular. So how can you maybe utilize what's going on in DC, what the president wants, to fund a lot of these companies, or at least make headway there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big talking point for the quarter and what's going on here, right? Defense is a key area of opportunity. One of the most tangible areas in which this is starting to manifest itself in the space economy is the Golden Dome initiative. We don't know how big that's ultimately going to be. There hasn't been a price tag put on this. In the big, beautiful bill that's come out, there is $25 billion set aside for that as sort of a getting started point. This is going to be a massive program that involves many space companies doing a lot of things. SpaceX was in pole position, you know, to win a significant amount of those contracts. How is that going to play out now? But basically every defense incumbent and every startup is going after this program and trying to get a piece of it. Interesting,
that's an interesting program. So how can you play that in the public markets, or is this mostly focused in private markets right now?
So what's going on in the space economy is early. It's really, again, on the heels of SpaceX, so we're like 15 years into this. We are starting to see some of those companies go public now. And they're really playing up the space and defense angles because there is a lot of government dollars and there's a growing amount of commercial dollars being made available. So we saw 20 exits in the space economy in Q2. 2 of those were IPOs, although there is probably worth talking about. Those companies, I mean, there's companies that are really good at playing the hype game, and then there's other companies that are actually making real revenue. So.
And SpaceX, I mean, valued at over $430 billion. Why haven't they gone public yet?
Well, I mean, if you think about why you go public at all as a company, it's probably to tap into the public markets and to the liquidity, right? Well, SpaceX is the most valuable private company, as you just mentioned. There is more demand for their stock than there is supply, by a lot.
Okay. Lou, I'm curious, would you invest in SpaceX if they went public? Or is this an attractive opportunity?
It is. I think it's an attractive opportunity. I would look at, I mean, as Chad was saying, there's not many options. We're still early in this. If you got a chance to invest in really, I mean, I would liken SpaceX to the NVIDIA of AI, right? I mean, NVIDIA is the apex player there. SpaceX is in space. I also like to look for what are the enablers, right? So right now there's not many public options. So if you look at like a Teradyne, a semiconductor test and equipment company, they're going to be involved with more space technology over time. So you can't get a pure play, but I would look for those adjacent companies that are going to start doing more space, investments in business. I struggle with companies like Rocket Labs that's up 600% over the last year. That's one of the well-known names in the space trade, and it's just, I just have a hard time trying to justify a valuation there and chase that type of momentum. So I'd look for more undervalued names. I mean, there's a couple ETFs that have space exposure, but they tend to be defense players like Boeing, Lockheed Martin. So there's really, like Chad was saying, there's more opportunities coming, but we don't have a rounded out list yet of available options.
Right, and Chad, you've also said before that the space economy isn't all about rockets to the moon, right? So what are some of the other growth drivers there, and where are you seeing that momentum?
Absolutely. I mean, most people think about rockets and the Apollo moon landings and like these sort of big government programs, but it's really, we're focused on the infrastructure, like the satellites that are in orbit, but also how that infrastructure is being leveraged here on Earth. So the intersection of geospatial and artificial intelligence is a key area of opportunity for us. We have massive data sets that we've been collecting with satellites for decades. We now have, with SpaceX enabling access to orbit, we now have a whole slew of new companies that are launching all types of new sensors. We have this unprecedented amount of really valuable data about the surface of our planet, the movement of goods. AI is enabling us to unlock the insights from that really valuable data set. And so this is a huge area of opportunity for us. We've just announced a couple of deals that we did in the last couple of weeks. One was yesterday. In this area, we're putting money to work, and we're early here, but there's a lot of value to unlock. And I think that these are the types of companies that do well long term and in the public markets. There's massive demand pent up, and their software, they're low capex, and the TAM is huge.
All right, a lot of signs to look out for. I'm excited for when some of these companies maybe do go public in the future. Chad, thank you so much.
Thank you.